Hello and welcome to Jupiter Gets Emotional. I'm Christopher Rayman Witecki, your astrologer and soul biographer, here to dive into the depths of the Jupiter in Cancer transit. And boy, will it be emotional. This is an expansion of our emotional maturity on Earth. It's a heavy transit, it's a difficult transit, and thank goddess it only happens once every 12 years. Jupiter, being the planet of our wisdom and our knowledge, is hitting Cancer, the sign of human emotion. And so we're all being forced to expand what we understand to be our feelings and expand how we respond to our feelings. And this is really what determines the masters from the juniors on the planet. Masters all work with their emotional field, all work with passion. Juniors kind of make the rest of the world deal with their emotions, make the rest of the world deal with their passion. That's really what separates the men from the boys and the princesses from the queens. So we're going to dive into this video and find out what's going on for you in this transit. Now the transit technically lasts a full year, from July 2013 to July 2014. Because it's so intense, this is just part A of my video series, which is going to dive into the transit for July to December. So we're looking at the rest of 2013 for this video to understand where you will get emotional. Each of the videos dives into sun sign and rising. Remember, your sun sign is the minute going on in your life, so the actions in the moment, and your rising is the long story, the long-term actions going on. So you can buy both videos to get the full story. And before we dive into what's going on for you, I want to look at a little bit of the astro history of Jupiter in Cancer so you can get a real idea of what this means and how it affects you. Let's take a look. Now, looking at this timeline here, this is precisely the dates involved every time Jupiter's been in Cancer in this particular century. As you can see, we're in July 2013, and that is the time where you're going to see a rapid expansion of your motion beginning in early July. Now, the last time we had this expansion was the year of July 2001 to 2002. For those of you who live in the United States, this was the infamous 9/11 terrorist attack that happened in September of 2001. And the United States, which is a Cancer, born July 4th, 1776, and the president, Cancer George W. Bush, handled this emotional trauma, and the United States had to endure. The rest of the world also felt that pain, and regardless of the national circumstances, if you go back to your life in 2001 to 2002, you will see that you were dealing with the issues talked about in this video. You will see that you grew at that time, or didn't, or refused to, and you will see that these issues are once again back. But don't stop there. If you're old enough, go one more time to July 1989 to 1990. Guess who just got elected as president then? George Bush. Guess also what was happening? Well, the United States was having a hard time. We were coming out of a very bad time where we had an Alzheimer president leaving. That was a little shady and kind of weird. We had Ollie North trials going on. We had the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which made the whole world upset. If you look at the 1989 drama, there was plenty of it, and the United States was going through its times. But look in your own life in that year and see for yourself where you grew in 89, if you remember. Even if you were a child, what changed between 89 and 90? But just making it even more interesting, let's go way, way back in time to June 1942. This was, of course, when the United States entered World War II. Again, the United States, a Cancer, entering into a world war. We had been bombed in December of 41, but we didn't go to war and put our boys at risk really until the summer of 42. So pretty interesting there. And of course, one more date you can't deny is June 30th to 31st, the time before that Jupiter was in Cancer. And of course, what was that? The World Depression and the Dust Bowl. Of course, once again, the stock market crashed November of the year before, but the Dust Bowl, the real starvation, the real difficulty and unemployment and fear really hit that summer of 1930, as well as the crops drying up. So as you can see with this timeline, every time Jupiter goes into Cancer, and do your research, look up your grandparents' birthdays, look up other people, it's really fascinating to see, but every time Jupiter goes in Cancer, human beings have this issue with having to grow up emotionally. So let's talk about some of the things we can expect in this video. For one, you should understand kind of the mapping of Jupiter in Cancer. It tends to go back and forth. So in 9/11, the United States was attacked. This time, probably the United States will be seen as the bad guy. And as I tape this video, that's already the case. This kid named Edward Snowden has stolen secrets in the United States and is making us look bad worldwide. So already the U.S. is on the receiving side of this. And that's how karma works. If you felt like you were victimizing yourself the last time Jupiter's in Cancer, be careful about being victimized, or be careful about moving it in the outer world. So karma has a way of going 180. So you might find yourself being the one breaking hearts this time if you had your heart broken last time. Look for that to change every Jupiter in Cancer. But the truth is that people have dialectical growth anyway. So even though the United States was the victim the last time, and now the United States is looking like the perpetrator, the truth is the United States is also going to take some hits for this. So it really is just a matter of who starts the cause and effect cycle and where will the cycle start. So it all starts in July of 2013. And following this introduction, we're going to dive into, for your sign and your rising, a month-by-month breakdown of the events that happen. And because there's so many events and so much, I cut the video into 6 months and kept it so that you can focus on the first half of the transit. So without further ado, let's dive into the details of your Jupiter in Cancer expansion. Hello Cancers and Cancer Risings, thank you for purchasing this video. I think you will be very grateful that you did. This is going to be an incredible year of expansion and growth for you, particularly as it relates to your ego. Now the ego is just the dumbass that works for us. It's the part of us that gets off the couch, the part of us that defends us, the part of us that takes action. Action is the 9th step in manifestation, where after setting up 8 before it, we take action. And so it's our ego that takes action. Now our ego has been usually taking a lot of crap our whole life, and so as a result our ego gets programmed to react to people unnecessarily. And when you are a Cancer or a Cancer rising, your emotions and your ego are fused together. So when you feel something, your inner doggy will bark. All right? And that's true for a lot of people, but it is essentially true for Cancers. You are what you feel. All right? And for Cancer risings, you look like and you appear like you feel. So in order to control appearance, in order to control how we do in the world, you have to unfortunately be in control of how you feel. So the first part of this is going to be expanding the vocabulary of your own feelings and your own ego, and beginning to witness where your ego fires off without you asking. And that means you might get into a lot of ego conflicts with people. Now, it's also going to be a big conflict with your own marriage, the way you treat yourself, and your marriages, because this Jupiter is opposing Pluto, and so it is a tug-of-war this entire time between being strong and being strong for yourself in partnerships, not just strong for others. The other thing that's going to happen is a lot of long-term relationships will finally end. Where it has been unfair either to them or to you, it will end during this time. Jupiter will put so much pressure on it that anything that's built out of straw will get blown down by the big bad Jupiter, and anything built out of brick will kind of stay. So you can expect a lot of turbulence with those around you. And in essence, what the universe is trying to get you to do is reprioritize where your energy goes. Your ego is here to take care of one person, you. All right? And if you happen to have abundant energy to take care of other people, groovy. But probably growing up, most Cancer risings in particular, but Cancers in general, grew up trying to take care of everyone. And even when a Cancer has a really good mommy, the Cancer is trying to take care of everyone, okay? Because the Cancer really enjoys the feeling of that synergy with another person. But what we need to do is ensure that we are walking out into the world feeling whole and feeling supported by ourselves. A lot of Cancers are looking for support from the world. Unfortunately, the way the law of attraction works is if you don't support yourself, the world won't support you. All right? So the reason why no one has given back all these years has been because you have been attracting people who don't take care of themselves, just like you don't take care of yourself. But opposites also attract. They are a type of person who doesn't take care of themselves and throws it onto the seats of others. You're a type of person that doesn't take care of yourself and instead takes care of other people instead. So once you say, that's it, I'm taking care of myself, I'm standing up for myself, all of the people you've been breastfeeding, all of the codependent relationships will go awry, and you will have to be stronger for yourself then than ever. All right, so let's take a look at how this is all going to unfold, shall we? It begins in your birthday period of July, so I have to say this will not be a good birthday period for you. That's because Jupiter moving into your sign or into the first house for the Cancer risings means that it's going to be intense and over the top. So I'm predicting breakdowns, temper tantrums, fights, arguments, conflicts, all of the above with marital partners and yourself through most of July. The only difference of the two parts of July is how heavy it gets. It starts off as very shocking around July 4th, and it ends up being profoundly deep July 14th to the 20th. All right. Now, one thing that's important to know is there's a water grand trine going on this whole time. So as you are trying to stand up and be stronger for yourself and get stronger, you have the help of Saturn and Neptune. Saturn in Scorpio is pushing you to listen to your own inner child. So the real judge here behind whether or not you get involved or not, or whether or not you take care of yourself or not, is your inner child. Either you're in joy or you're not in joy. And so Saturn is pushing hard for you to choose joy as the measure of where your ego goes or doesn't go. Then Neptune in Pisces is helping you intuit kind of what to believe. So your beliefs do not suit you. If they did, you'd be happy all the time, right? So beliefs, as far as what we should do and what our practice should be, those beliefs are going to be coming in intuitively as you go. So when your ego is freaked out, when you don't know how to respond to yourself or someone else, you want to ask your inner child where the lines are, and you want to ask your intuition what should be the proper course of action here. And you're going to have your first breakdowns 5th through 9th, and then you're going to have the consequences of those breakdowns 14th through 20th. So let's say you finally get into a fight in your marriage that just seems like there's no turning around July 5th. Well, probably 14th through 20th, you're already talking about breaking up or divorcing. Now, in August, it's more kind of the same, only it shifts in focus. Now, as your birthday period ended, it then moves into manifestation, productivity, self-esteem. The Sun in Leo is about loving yourself and putting yourself first. Putting yourself first is partly why you have the second level breakdown at the end of July. And in August, loving yourself is also part of what pushes you to move forward. So in early August, Jupiter hits 8 and 9 degrees, which means it's time to decide and cut away all the ego issues you don't want. Now, because we're talking ego, we're talking about the skin deep part of you. So you might go through a hairstyle makeover and a clothing makeover and feel ugly or fat or go back to the gym. All these things are pretty common when Jupiter hits our first house. Remember, the last time we had Jupiter in Cancer was 2001. So you might go back to that period when you were 12 years younger and kind of look at what your growth was with ego, strength, determination, etc. And you can bet that you can go that far or farther this time. But when the Sun is in Leo, a lot of your ego issues deal with money. They might deal with getting what you deserve at work. They might deal with getting things done. So it's ego, but it's all these things. And Jupiter is opposing Pluto, so it's constant battle between your marriage, your partnerships, and your ego. In some cases, your partnerships aren't going far enough. In some cases, your ego is going too far. It's this balance all the way up till October 29th. In August 11th to the 20th, you're going to be manifesting and healing, licking your wounds, trying to bring your pride back up, trying to get up over whatever the fights were in the beginning, and then it's more breakdown at the end of the month. The Sun moves into Virgo, at which point this becomes a big mind game for the Cancers, and once it gets into the mind game field of what you're doing and what you feel about things, then you have this next wave of ego, how ego crashes according to the mind. So you can see how the whole year your ego is going to expand according to all the states of awareness. And by the end of August, it's how do thoughts, arguments, what you say contribute to strength, emotions, etc., right? And that's what you want to focus on. And the second tier breakdowns happen through September. Now, what do I mean by second tier breakdowns? Well, let's say, for instance, that we're just going to go with this model of breaking up in a relationship, because that's pretty common when Jupiter hits Cancer, or at least one relationship will break up. So you're fighting in July, you break up at the end of July, in August you start to come to terms, and then at the end of August, early September, more breakdowns. What are the breakdowns? Well, now you get served the divorce papers, or now you get served the next level, or now you start talking child custody. So it gets deeper, okay? This is forcing you to get stronger. Now, I have to enforce that, or I have to reinforce that this transit makes you feel very weak. It makes you feel not strong because it's trying to make you get stronger. And unfortunately on Earth, the only way to get stronger is to try lifting heavier things. So in some cases, pure might and willpower is the lesson here, where you just push, push, push wherever your heart and other things are aligned. So the 1st through the 7th, it's deeper breakdowns, deeper ego breakdowns. Certain you might have a big zit on your chin. The 8th to the 20th, it's breakthrough. So after all that might and struggle, and with the focus of thoughts and attitude and intellectual communication and negotiation, finally things start to open up for your pride and ego. You start having some accomplishments September 8th to the 20th. Then September 22nd through the 10th, October 10th, you're going to be holding space with the ego. So the ego doesn't have many big changes. But the sun does move into Libra. And as the sun moves into Libra, you start facing emotions at home. So although your ego has calmed down, the battles have calmed down, now you're at home licking your wounds from the entire year you have lived since your birthday. So it's kind of like your emotions catching up with you since your birthday at the end of September, and your ego is just holding steady, still growing, still getting stronger, still having to climb. And as far as ego is concerned, you're just committing to the future and trying to hold steady. But one of the things going on there in September is we're entering into this four square paradigm between the Sun, Uranus, Pluto, and Jupiter. And they kind of T-square and form a grand square and T-square again. Let me show you what I'm talking about. In October, the Sun in Libra means that the focus for you moves to home, family, foundation, and your emotions. But what that does is create an opposition with career. So you might have a lot of career things taking off, or you're trying to move forward with career and do career things, and yet your own emotions are holding you back. What's more important? Emotion. Sometimes you have to stifle the career. But the Sun is also squaring Jupiter and will be squaring Pluto, which means that you're working out fears between your home and family and your ego. You're working out fears between your home and family and your marriage and partnerships, and you're balancing between your home and family and your career. So it's a real stalemate, and it intensifies October 13th, where you might just feel like you can't do anything. And that's really the point. The universe wants you to sit down and pay attention to how you feel. Okay, and how your ego responds to yourself, and how your marriage responds to yourself. Okay, it has nothing to do with anyone else, even though your codependent Cancer rising nature or codependent Cancer nature wants to make it about other people. That is not what the universe is built on. It's built on you being the center of everything, and so you're being forced in this T-square to do that. Now on October 21st, things really heat up. The Sun moves into Scorpio. It's no longer about home, family, and foundation. It's about your personal dreams. So it gets very personal October 21st. At the same time, Jupiter goes to 20 degrees, master shui. So October 21st, the universe turns up the volume, makes it personal for you. So now your heart is talking about marriage or creativity or getting what it wants, and Mercury retrogrades. So as you're stepping into all this emotion about inner child and your ego is almighty, suddenly you lose the ability to talk. Suddenly we have to go inward. So it's a weird end of October, and it gets even stranger as we climax here to Halloween. Let's take a look. Basically, as the Sun moves into Scorpio, you have a big shift going on in the inner child story. And Saturn and Scorpio, pushing for Cancers and Cancer risings to connect to their inner child and have their dreams come true, is a whole other story and video that I'm going to shoot. However, it comes into the main play of this Jupiter and Cancer Get Stronger lesson for you. And this is how it comes. For one, your ego is going to realize, Jupiter and Cancer, that you've got to just cut away from any type of love affair or love issue that failed. So you've got to cut off the old love affairs. And you Cancers never do. I got to tell you, because you rule memory, you always hold on to the past. But this is one time where you emotionally can't. You can think about it, you can have pictures of it, but you can't sit there and feel bad about your first boyfriend. If there's bad feelings coming up, you're carrying baggage. Okay? So you're going to cut off that lower baggage. Saturn at 13 degrees means you're going to break the glass ceiling of like the next level of love, the next level of creativity, the next potential. All this coordinates with your master shui ego of Jupiter at 20 degrees. All this is fighting the old relationships, okay, that you used to be in. All this is pitting yourself against to where you aren't in the world. So it's a very intense Halloween time. And what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson is very simple. You want to move forward with relationships as you know it. You want to live according to your heart. And that ego of yours better stand up and support whatever it is you want, not go out there nursing and breastfeeding the rest of the world. That's the climatic shift. So those who get it in October will ascend, I think, to another level in November. Those who don't get it will go back for another round of everything I just said in July, even though the video moves on in January. Okay, that's how karma works. So you repeat everything you've learned if you don't learn it this time. So this is a one-year transit, by the way, not the rest of your life. So moving into November, the Sun is still in Scorpio. It's still about personal dreams, and it's getting very like futuristic and future pointed by this time with the personal dreams. And Jupiter retrogrades. So as of November 6th, there's no more heavy weight being poured onto your ego. Instead, you're thinking backwards to what you learned, filling in the gaps, going back to where you might have skipped a step, things like that. In fact, November 7th, the day after the retrograde, the sun crosses Saturn, which means you have kind of a holy commitment to your inner child, and you say to your inner child, we're going to, hopefully you say, that's it, I've decided, we're cutting off all the dead crap, we're heading for the great love and the great creativity, and our ego is going to have to be strong. So at 19 degrees, your ego is having to be strong. It's retrograded, which means that you're not getting new weight thrown onto you, but you're also not getting life rafts thrown to you to help you either. It's like maintaining the course of where you are. Then in December, the end of this video, but not the end of this transit, remember Jupiter is retrograded. The sun now moves into Sagittarius and it's heading for Capricorn. For Cancers, that means at the end of Thanksgiving and the beginning of December that you're really focused on health, lifestyle, getting things done. It's a bit of a break from the ego development that we've been going through. It's a bit of a break now from the inner child stuff that you went through in Scorpio. But one thing I do want to point out is that Mars is in Libra, and so Mars is pushing for justice. Now that justice might hit in home and family. It might hit in career. Basically, Mars is going to where the sun was and playing in that grand square, T-square energy that we had experienced. And so Mars comes and basically carries out all the spiritual learning or not learning that you did. So although we did all this work in September, October, November, you're going to see results of that spiritual work come pouring in without asking in the first 2 weeks of December as you're focused on lifestyle, duties, and things like that. In fact, in this little transit, there comes a point when Saturn and Jupiter trine exactly at 18 degrees, which means for the first time in probably a long time, your ego and your inner child are on the same side. So in other words, you're not fighting yourself about what your heart wants. You're not taking it personally. If anything's wrong, it's the world's fault, not yours. And that's a huge shift that happens there in mid-December. As we end the year, the only thing I want to point out is Venus in Capricorn going retrograde. So Venus is the giving and receiving. Capricorn is marriage and partnership. So this particular year, due to the strength of ego that you're developing, due to the new emotional response to yourself you're developing, you may feel very alone on Christmas with Venus retrograde in Capricorn. You may feel like you're the only one that can be your Santa Claus. And I'm telling this to all the signs. You must be your own Santa Claus. Remember, we come from Source. We have access to Source. You don't technically need other people on the planet. They're just here for the fun. Okay? Now we want them, and it's a lot more fun with them, but we are designed to be our own universe from the inside out. And so with Venus retrograde at Christmas, I'm telling all my clients, you should go buy your own Christmas presents and expect nothing from the world because you are everything you need. All right, let's wrap up. Alrighty, well this concludes Jupiter Gets Emotional Part A. I will be producing and distributing Part B here shortly, and I'll be emailing you at the email address you provided when you bought this video when the next Part B is available. Until then, pay close, mindful attention to your feelings, expand, grow, and don't take it personally. And remember, you're not alone. We're all going through this together. Until next time, I love you, and live, love, be.